How's it going, guys? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to Muv-Luv Monday, where we are here in Eclipse. And yeah, things are kicking off. It looks like we're going to be having some real combat now. It's going to be Yuuya's first time fighting Beta ever, so that'd be really interesting to see how he handles that. But it looks like it's going to go over a bit of the history of this particular front, which again, it's kind of nice that like we know the general picture, but the games usually try and like localize the conflict to what the characters are going to be seeing primarily, because you know it's a worldwide thing. But we're obviously going to be focusing here on like wherever the line is in what's left of Russia. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. I imagine it's going to be pretty action-packed today for this episode. I would be surprised that there's much more we cover besides whatever this initial conflict is going to be, and maybe the direct after effects. I don't know how long this video is going to end up being. It just depends on how they wrote this, or like, I guess maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe it's just going to be really short. Sometimes, especially early on in a story, the combat sequences can be pretty negligible, but I feel like it'll be something special because, again, Yuuya's first time actually being in war and seeing like what's actually happening. Also, there was some hints that potentially the actual like super railgun is going to be present on the battlefield today, which would be really interesting because so far all we've seen is the simulation version, so we'll have to find out. Also, it was nice seeing like some direct references to Yuko Sensei and Yokohama and all that stuff. It's just fun. I'm just excited. So I don't think there's much else to say. It looks like we'll be doing a bit of exposition here first, and then we'll jump right into the action, I think. So let's get started, shall we? In the days before the war against the Beta, two factions battled for dominance: the capitalist Western Bloc with the United States of America as its leader, and the communist Eastern Bloc with the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics at helm.
東西冷戦。大量の戦略核兵器による相互破壊保障により、米ソ首脳は人類滅亡と同義である第三次世界大戦勃発をかろうじて踏みとどまっていた。
Oddly familiar territory right now, huh? Isn't that lovely?
東西冷戦下、カムチャツカ半島は自然環境保護を名目に、外国人はもちろん、自国民に対しても入域が厳しく制限されていた。
Interesting. See, this is stuff I didn't know.
だが実際には国家安全保障、ベーリング海を挟んでアメリカ合衆国カナダ、オホーツク海を挟んでは日本と対峙する地政学的重要性がその理由であった。1973年のベータ地球降下、それに続くユーラシア大陸西進から1979年の北進という戦局の推移に伴い、
So likely,
カムチャツカ半島の戦略的意義は一変。
So Kamachka is like, it was originally seen as like a front line or like a buffer zone between Russia and its perceived enemies. But now the Beta have arrived, it's become kind of like their last line of defense. Probably because it was pretty well stocked up in munitions and military equipment.
ソビエト太平洋艦隊、弾道ミサイル原子力潜水艦隊の基地であったペトロパブロフスク・カムチャスキーは、太平洋方面における西側諸国からの援助物資中継基地の一つとして、後退を続けるソ連軍の兵站を支えるという重責を担った。
Right, okay.
1985年に共産党政府がアラスカ移転を完了した後も、その重要度、役割に変化はなく、ペトロパブロフスク・カムチャスキー基地は、ユーラシア最東端の要塞都市アナディリと並び、ブランゲリ島からカムチャツカ半島を結ぶ北東ソビエト最終防衛線を支える重要拠点として稼働し続けている。
So long story short, pretty important place.
加えてカムチャツカ半島は国連の重点支援地域に指定されており、南北に長くオホーツク海と並列する山脈を要し、大陸との連結部が狭い陸の孤島とも言うべき絶好の戦略的条件から、
I see. It's not technically an island, but for all intents and purposes of defense, it kind of is when it comes to fighting against Beta. So it's like it's not an island, but it has a lot of the defensive benefits of an island.
将来的に計画されるであろう大陸反攻作戦の橋頭保として期待されているのである。
Alright, so that's where we are. First day in Kamachaka. Well, whatever. UN described
本試験の目的は、主として94セカンドとアクティブイーグルの実戦における即応性、並びに両機との緊密なコンビネーションにおける問題点の洗い出しであり。
Okay, that's what you say.
さすが旦那。前線指揮が長かっただけのことはあるな。内心気引き締めてんだろうが、表には一切出さねえ。
Yeah.
あっちも、ある意味いつもと変わんねえがな。
ハイネマンさんなら分かってくれると思ったんだぜ。絶対に合同運用試験に反対してくれるって。なのに、あの人は率先して部隊移動の準備や根回しを始めて。
Okay, interesting.
そこまでして94セカンドをベータにぶつけたいのかよ。
Yeah, he does. The old fart must have a laundry list of things he wants to test in actual combat. It would be crazy to miss a chance like this, even more so when Boeing is aiming to develop the Type 94 second as a frontline machine. Heck, from his perspective, it's a good thing the installation of the enhancement modules wasn't forced through. Gotta hedge your bets and all that. Sorry, Vincent, but not many people were gonna say no to our little expedition. Heinemann least of them. Still, he has to understand the significance of carrying out operational tests on the front lines. That show of anger was mostly out of concern for me, who's logged 0 seconds in actual combat. But I wasn't against coming here. Rather, I'm glad we did. I can't stand the idea of my lack of real combat experience is holding everyone else back. What's worse, the same lack of experience is throwing a wrench into our plans to complete the Type 94 second. Damn. I've never been so gung-ho about TSF under development. Maybe it's because I've had to spend so much darn time getting used to the machine, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm getting a bit too attached to this project. Developed a case of Stockholm Syndrome. So here I am, shipped off to the front line for the first time in my life and grateful for the chance. Wish I could have harnessed the feeling of oneness with my TSF before coming here, but that's one heck of a catch-22 I'm facing. Can't make that feeling on my own without experiencing live combat for myself. But just leaping into the fray as I am right now would put the Type 94 second directly at risk.
では、評価試験スケジュールに追加された試作兵装について、私から説明する。
おい、いいよ。
これが、非正99型電磁投射砲だ。
Yes! Type 99.
こいつが、史上初の戦闘用レールガン。
なお、白縫および1型兵での検証は日本でも十分行われているが、白縫2型での運用試験は当然のことながら今回が初めてとなる。
Okay, so they have had it on the battlefield before. This isn't its debut. Wait a second, are you kidding me?
運用試験に際しては予期せぬ問題が発生する可能性を考慮し、柔軟な対処を。
I understand she wants to take advantage of this opportunity, but it's too sudden.
ミッシップ強化モジュール完走後の適合試験については後日アラスカにて行うことになる。ブリッジ少尉をはじめ各テストパイロットはこの点に留意し。
Oh, okay. So she's talking about the enhancements. I wonder if the enhancements are built with the type of like weaponry like this in mind. Well, so long as I get to take the Type 94 second out for a spin at close quarters combat, you can strap the darn portable nuke launcher to it for all I care.
以上でブリーフィングを終了する。解散。
Alright.
Yuuya、お前これからどうする？
Well?
あのレールガンのこと、高村に抗議しないのかよ。どういうつもりか知らないけど、あんなどでかいもん、94セカンドが持つのはおかしいだろ？
You're right, but what's the point in complaining? It's never gotten me anywhere in the past. May as well just get out there, get it out of the way ASAP so we can go back to regular program.
あら？それを分かっていても、口を開かずにいられないのが、今までのあなただったのに。
Yeah, well, remember, he's kind of invested now.
寂しいね。グアドループ以来、随分と落ち着いちまってよ。大人の階段を登るのは めでたいことだとは分かっちゃいるんだが。
Yeah. Shove it where the sun don't shine. Ladder to adulthood, my butt.
そういや、整備兵たちの賭けはどうなったんだ？
さてね。なんかもう、うやむやになりかけてるって話だが。
Oh, interesting. They were expecting another blowout or something? Huh? What are you guys talking about?
ブリッジ少尉、
Oh, Lieutenant.
貴様がテストする新型兵装を見に行かないか。実際にその目で確かめておいた方がいいと思ってな。それに、補足的な説明もしておきたい。
Oh, I just realized though, this is going to be the first time they're going to have a direct interaction since the whole incident on the island, so, Huh. It's unusual for the lieutenant to suggest having a preparatory lecture. That's not quite right. It would be unusual for a development chief, but not for the commander about to lead her subordinate into combat. She's doing me a favor. Lieutenant Takamura or the base or the boss have seen plenty of action on the front lines, but this is my very first battle.
どうした？
Oh boy. Going to the battlefield must feel like just another day at the office to her. No, I don't think anybody approaches a battlefield like that. Nothing. Well, if you're sure it's alright, I won't look a gift horse in the mouth.
ああ、そうか。では、貴様たち、どうしたんだ？
You guys aren't coming?
いや、俺はいいっすよ、注意。時間がもったいねえし。
Oh no. Come on.
そう。新型はユーヤのおもちゃだしね。自分の期待で手一杯だよ。
申し訳ありません、注意。せっかくお誘いいただいたのに。
いや、気にするな。おのおのテストパイロットの責務を果たしてほしい。
So I guess it's interesting that Yuuya will be the only one with the railgun. Interesting.
では行こうか、少尉。
Yeah. What are they playing at? She's offering the chance to sneak peek at the first railgun in history, and they don't care? Did they leave their test pilot Spirit back in Alaska? No.
開発主任として厳重抗議します。
意外だな。貴様は命令であれば黙って従うものだとばかり思っていたんだが。
Oh, I'm guessing she doesn't want to see everyone get deployed to the front. She's like worried about him probably. Oh, and maybe that's why she got the railgun involved. She pulled strings of personal favors to get it there because she figured, well, hey, if we're going to be going out there with test equipment in a real battlefield, why don't we also bring test equipment that's really, really good at killing things?
ドール注意。いかなる自由があろうと、現段階において実践試験を考慮すべきではありません。それはあなたが一番。
ああ、わかっている。だがこれは総司令部の決定なんだ。日本政府が
まさかそんな。
いいか高村中尉、現実的に考えろ。状況から言って計画中止の可能性はほとんどない。だとすれば、俺たちのやるべきことは一つだ。
There is a really good lesson here. It's really important sometimes to understand. Like, I always say choose your battles and think of perspective. Like, they're like the two big, I think, guiding, like, advice I ever could give to anybody is that, like, you have a limited amount of energy, which is something I now have a much greater appreciation for than ever. You have only so much energy you can put into, like, just anything. You need to carefully decide what's worth that time and energy and effort. You need to allocate and keep in mind that time and your health are resources. They're not just, there's not an endless amount of it. You have to be careful. You have to decide, and you have to understand, like, it's even like you can see it like a battlefield, you see it in real life, like it doesn't matter. Like, there are times where you're in a position where no matter how much you object, no matter how much you disagree, no matter how much you feel like overwhelmed or insulted or outplayed, treated unfairly, there are just fights you can't win. There are fights that you don't get to have much say in. And no matter how much you try, you're not going to make a lot of headway. So you have to be careful and be, like he's saying, be pragmatic. Where are you going to put that energy toward? Are you going to put it towards, like, complaining and refuting and denying and, like, trying to make the situation change in a way that you can't control? Or can you channel that energy instead towards making the most of that situation?
派遣部隊を無事に帰還させる。
そうだ。一人として失わずにだ。そのために最善を尽くす。それだけだ。
最善を尽くす。か。
Hmm? Did you say something?
あ、いや、なんでもない。
Alright. Anyway, you sure it's fine to give me the private tour?
十分な資料が渡されているからな。各々消化すべきスケジュールがある以上、予定外の視察を無理強いできない。
I see.
直接確認するべきは運用する英士だという、学んだる少尉の言葉は正しい。
If you say so.
どうした？何か気にかかることでも？
Not really. It's, I'm sure it's only my imagination, but I swear the guys were acting really weird just now.
様子がおかしい？妙な含み？
I wouldn't even know where to begin. Anyway, it's not that important.
そうか。ならばいいが。
Two headless chickens running around. Moving on. Lieutenant, why wasn't I notified in advance?
事前通達。何のことだ？
About the railgun's field testing, of course, and also about being assigned to the Type 94 Second.
ああ、それは、すまなかった。
Huh?
試作兵器の持ち出しに、国内の調整が手間取ったようでな。急遽決定したこの遠征で、なんとか試してみたかったんだが。
I hear PR speak. Think I get the picture.
すまないな。
You don't need to apologize, Lieutenant. In the first place, it's not that big a deal to me. Alright. Secure hangar. Whoa. That thing is amazing. Yes, it is.
あれが開発中の次世代戦術機砲。姿勢救急型電磁投射砲だ。
The specs don't do it justice. This thing is freaking massive. Oh, this thing is so unbelievably intimidating, yet somehow sleek and refined. Now I understand how the TSF pervert Vincent feels.
攻撃力や制圧能力は保証する。短期間ではあるが、私も開発に携わったからな。
You were? When did that happen?
アラスカに来る直前だ。実写試験の第2段階とシミュレーター実証まで進んだところで転属になった。
Whoa, so you've actually fired the railgun yourself? And here I thought the Japanese were obsessed with close quarters dogfights. I would have never imagined they were developing the first TSF railgun in human history all along. Not only that, but the lieutenant herself was involved?
どうした？そんなに意外か？
No, sorry.
何を詫びる？驚くのも当然だ。私だって、この存在を知った時には、覚醒の感を抱いたものだ。
Huh? Oh, yeah. No, dude, you're getting me completely wrong. It's one thing for the lieutenant to have a prior development experience, but for her to have test pilot, that's way beyond my expectations. Yeah, well, I guess that's true. Normally, management doesn't have their hands so involved in the process, but like, so she was a test pilot essentially, and now she's like leading test pilots. But he probably just didn't even think that way because in the States, a lot of the program leaders were just, you know, typical like soldiers. I get it. I bet she was forcibly transferred to Alaska, same as me. Just another person caught in the middle of events. My complaints about the higher-ups being out of touch ring so ironic in hindsight. Although, now that I think about it, the lieutenant has never discussed her service history before. Japan is the frontline country. She formerly belonged to the samurai unit, so I just assumed she'd spent her entire career fighting at the front.
私が関わっていた頃は、冷却系の防御力に問題があったが、この量産試験型では回収されている。その分、重量は 17% 増加したが。
Yeah, that's right. That was like in the first episode, we saw that the simulator had the cooling issue. I see. So the trade-off between defensive capability and weight is a complicated issue that any of mobile ordnance is fated to confront at some point.
そうだ。結局その難問をブレイクスルーするのは新素材や新技術だ。それまではバランスの問題に終始してしまう。
That's the apt description of how TSS have evolved through different generations as well. Although the way you phrase it is a little concerning.
気になる。
Look at that sideways glance there. She's like, "What?" like, she's like, "What are you saying?" It's just like it's a weird angle for it, but it's funny. Because you're completely disregarding mobility and the trade-off. The changes in aerodynamics and its center of gravity are nothing to sneeze at either. You're asking me to carry around a weapon whose specifications are at complete odds with the Type 94 Second's design concept. Even Tiny could see past the contradiction. I'd be shocked if the lieutenant hadn't noticed. What?
なんでもない。気にするな。
Maybe she's just surprised you noticed.
開発コンセプトとの矛盾は認める。情けない話だが、必死なんだ。
Yeah, remember, like, he doesn't know how much personal investment she pulled in order to get him this weapon.
それこそ、なりふり構っていられないという、我が国の置かれた状況の証なんだ。
My impression of the lieutenant has changed lately. When I see her these days, she seems closer to her actual age, has an air of youth about her, an air of vulnerability even. What triggered this change? Was it her service record? Or because I now know we're fellow test pilots? Or the fact that you, I don't know, shared a vulnerable experience together on an island where you were desperate to survive? Like, it's all factors, man.
緊急時、貴様が邪魔だと判断したら、投棄していい。
Oh, fetch. Really? What?
ただし、その際には、内蔵されている爆破装置を使ってほしい。
That's more like it. What's she saying? Oh, right. Can't let the Soviets get their grubby paws on it, huh?
今のところは、な。
Despite all the risks, she still wanted to bring the railgun along. But there's no way to justify this decision. Right now, nothing matters more than the Empire wiping out the Beta. The Type 94 Second and the railgun are both the means to that end. The Empire is willing to accept the contradiction in its design as long as victory is achieved in the end. Since time is of the essence, no one would miss the chance to test the prototype on a real battlefield. Frontline countries are expected to stand together, but from my recent experience, I found that that's just empty words. It must have been political hell trying to bring this experimental weapon over to the Soviet Union. I don't want to say it out loud, but it's possible the lieutenant herself got stuck with the railgun due to all the roles she's played in its development. If so, she has my full sympathies. Being caught in the middle of the political crossfire is one of the things we surface pilots dread the most. I think I roughly understand your position, Lieutenant. Don't worry, I have no intention of throwing away the railgun.
いや、優先すべきは装備などではない。可能であれば持ち帰ればいい。あれも所詮、人の作り出すもの。いずれ電磁投射砲は各国の標準装備になる。
That's a very healthy attitude to have. It may be cutting edge technology that they really don't want to get out. But she's saying, like, look, a railgun is replaceable, and it's likely going to become standard issue in the next few decades. So, like, while it seems important, really the pilots are more important. Well, I guess you have a point.
装備や機体は一度作れば量産できる。だが、優秀な兵士はそれができない。
Exactly. I guess.
だから、今私が失いたくないもの。それは、知らぬい新潟と。
And you?
そのメインテストパイロットで。
Oh, she actually said it.
貴様なんだ。
I thought she was going to trail off. Fetch. Whoa, hold your horses there, cowboy. The mission comes before everything. I thought that was her whole deal. And this particular mission calls for the pilot to prioritize the equipment's safe return. What the hell's happening? Sure, she's let her walls down a bit lately, but this is almost like she's torn them down completely.
それを忘れるな。
I will. Keep that in mind. Women, I need to figure out what's going on inside your head. I mean, I admit it was a perfectly reasonable argument, but what's her game? Distracting me so I don't get cold feet right before my first battle?
8分。
Huh? 8 minutes. Oh, Fetch, that's right. He hasn't faced his 8 minutes yet. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. Barring any actual, like, genuine affection or just, you know, or whatever, like, she's saying, look, you're a good pilot. We need you in the program. But in reality, like, you're a person and you've never been on the battlefield, and most people don't, like that survival rate of 8 minutes, man. That's one of those crazy things. Like, TSF pilots survival, like what it was like the rate of survival statistic is like 50% drop in the first 8 minutes.
初陣兵士の生存時間の平均だ。
Yeah, I know. We hear all about it during orientation at the academy.
そうか。
So that's what this whole thing is about. She's been speaking as a Japanese pilot. I mean, it makes sense, right? Over in Japan, where the population has drastically declined, circus pilots are worth their weight in gold. Switching from development work at the safety of the rear to live testing at the front lines must be the standard. On top of that, the lieutenant has been seeing actual combat, witnessing her friends and subordinates die several times as part of the parcel with that experience. That's a bit of scare tactic these days, isn't it? Those numbers include the test pilots fighting in Europe and Asia with the first generation TSFs. Oh, so he's saying like that statistic might not be accurate anymore, but they cling to it because they need people to understand how dire the situation is and how much they need to be on their toes. When you look at the average from the past couple of years, things aren't nearly as grim.
確かにそうかもしれない。だが、第三世代機で出撃しても、たった1分で落命する者もいる。
True. Yeah, I get what you're trying to say. It isn't about survival time. It's about not buying the farm. It doesn't matter if you die 5 hours or 5 minutes into an operation. It's over just the same. My instructors in the U.S. military put me through the grinder, but I've never set foot on the battlefield. No shame in admitting that. I can run my mouth all I want. At the end of the day, I'm far less prepared than you or the rest of the guys.
ブリッジズ。
However, there's one thing I know for sure. This is war, and in war, underestimating your enemy can prove fatal. So let me promise you something. I'll return your beloved Type 94 in a second, with ne'er scratch, no matter what. Same goes for the railgun, of course. My goal is to put the finishing touches on the Type 94 second and turn it to the best TSF around. My pride as a test pilot's riding on the line. I will stop at nothing to respond to the lieutenant's expectations. That was always the plan, but now I'm dead set on it. After all these fiery clashes and no-holds-barred arguments, there's one thing I've come to understand. She feels the same way I do. Japan's national objectives, the development of the Type 94 second, and the personal improvements of the test pilots, myself included. The lieutenant cares about all these aspects because they're all related to the successful completion of the XFJ program.
私はそろそろ戻らなければ。
Sure.
時間を取らせてすまなかった。ではな。
I see her running for that escape pod for this conversation. Hey, Lieutenant? Thanks. I'm glad to see I was able to see the real thing. It's given me a lot to think about. She's younger than me, but carries a tremendous burden on her shoulders, with no choice but to grit her teeth and bear with it. Huh. I could never hate a woman who thinks the fight is worth it all. Fourth day in Kamchak. I can't say Russian words.
はあ。あら、どうしたの？もうここでの生活に飽きた？
いや、何もないのはその通りだけど、そんなのは慣れっこだよ。ただなんか、居心地悪いんだよな。
I would think it's not...
そりゃ、私たちはお邪魔虫なんだろうけどさ。
For one thing, it's a little weird. I mean, like, you find the same... You say that you have the same kind of issues with them back at the base, A. And then B, you also gotta remember, this is like hard line front. Like, these are the people who are facing like the horrors of the war every day. And they've got to know that regardless of whether you're experienced or not, right now, you're test pilots. So you don't have to sit at the front and you don't watch your friends die every week. You don't have to deal with that. It's like, of course they're gonna be a little bit standoffish.
まあ、地元の部隊からしたら、俺たちみたいな存在はいるだけで迷惑だろうからな。
Exactly.
確かにそうだよな。人も物資も何もかも足んないんだろうし、そこにのこのこやってきて、実践試験とか言ってるわけだしね。
I appreciate that she can actually see that. Like, Teresa's always kind of been a blinders type of girl, so like half the time I don't know what she'll pick up on, but she's not stupid.
でもだからといって、非協力的なのはどうかしら。情報提供の不足、連絡不徹底、受け入れ体制の不備、対応の粗雑さ、現地部隊の態度。どれも最悪ね。
See, it's got to be the propaganda stacking on top of like the fact that you all don't have to sit at the front every day. Like, there's going to be an envy there. Even if this were a UN base, I think there'd still be that animosity just already there. And then add on to the fact that the remains of the Soviet Union, who've already had to concede so much and have such little left of their own nation that they're fighting every second for. to have others just kind of plop in and like, oh, we're gonna test our machinery with you guys. We're gonna use the battlefield that you've lost loved ones and friends and family and everything to as a place to play with our new toys. Of course they're gonna feel hostile to that. And then you've also just got the fact that the Soviet Union's obviously in this timeline very insular. They're very much inward thinking and inward like it's all about like service for the motherland and like, you know, like it's all for one for all. We are in this together and we got to stick it out to the end. Like they see the UN as begrudging allies and US as begrudging allies, which they also see, like a lot of people see the UN as an extension of the United States as well, which is why the UN ends up butting heads with everybody, including the Japanese government. Just because they perceive the UN as the US's kind of like, I don't know, front guard dog or whatever. So there's a lot of factors going into why there would be so much animosity here. I think it's, I would honestly say I think it's justified.
どうしたんだ？なんかひどい嫌がらせでも受けたのか？
別に。いたって平和なものよ。だって、相手にされないんだから。
ああ、そっか。オタクは確かに心穏やかじゃないよな。ソ連とスウェーデンの歴史的な背景を考えれば、手厳しいのも無理はね。
I doubt that's all, but I'm sure there's at least a factor of that.
いや、相手にされないのは事実だよ。対応が粗雑とかいうレベルじゃない。道を尋ねたのに鼻で笑われて終わりだぜ。そっちはどうよ。
Interesting. That is exceptionally hostile.
ああ、今のところは。ま、後方の開発ってだけで、俺らは相当恵まれてるからな。疎まれても仕方ないさ。その上、第一次派遣のドゥーマ小隊が派手にやらかしたらしいぜ。
Okay.
ドゥーマ？ああ、アフリカ連合の。で、何したって？
兵士が全員シェルショックだとさ。
シェルショック？は？どういうこと？
そいつら、揃いも揃って実戦経験がなかったらしいんだよ。で、いきなり地獄絵図見ちまって、即パニックだってよ。
So that's a worry we have for Yuuya, but at the same time, like the really good thing is that he's going in with people who have already seen combat and been against the beta. Like an entire squad of green people who've never fought beta before ever, that's asking for trouble. It's kind of what we even saw in Alternative, because like the trainees obviously like hadn't fought beta before. But the idea was that they were supposed to integrate with other squads when they were first introduced to the beta. Like the idea would be that like at most I think they said that you would have 2 experienced pilots and 2 recruit pilots in forming like a squad, and that they would do maneuvers for at least 1 or 2 battles before like survivors would reform back into the original like squad pods or be redistributed throughout the military. But since they were UN, they were likely going to be sticking together. Especially because they were very specialized units that were never quite intended for the front lines anyway, until they weren't necessary anymore. That whole revelation was just, it was great. Being like, oh, so these all aren't pilots for the UN just because they're good. They're not even working with Yuko Sensei because they're great. They're almost political hostages, which is like just that brutal side to Yuko Sensei where everything's a formula. Anyway, sorry, just reminiscing about good game.
たく、何やってんの？いいね、アフリカは平和でさ。その英士の国って、さぞ人道的なんだろうね。
だろうな。何しろ、ご催眠暗示も薬も一切使わなかったらしいってんだから、筋金入りだぜ。
It's honestly hard to get behind that on the surface, especially having a cushy life, you know, post-hypnotic suggestions or drugs. It's like, yeah, I mean, those aren't great. It's really not cool that that's what you have to rely on, but like, considering what they're up against and considering the losses and how important it is for everyone to keep their heads, like, I get it. Like, it's not like, and I can also see why the African countries that are like so far removed from the combat would be very much still holding on to values and principles that we hold.
でも結果を見る限り、 本当に人道的なら、そのどっちも使うんじゃない？
はは、そりゃそうだ。
ま、そんなことがあったから、ただでさえ邪魔な派遣部隊への風当たりが、ますます厳しくなるんじゃねえかってよ。
Oh, well, yeah,
特
when
に、現場の兵士は全員不満タラタラだってさ。
think about it, if your front line crumbles, even on a section, like they probably had a lot of pilots that died because a flank they expected to have some support from just completely vanished. Like, that's what sucks, is because like on the battlefield, you're gonna be running on adrenaline. Your instincts are gonna be like, we have to live, we have to live, we have to live. But like, if you don't suppress that and don't like hold the line and listen to the to orders and like keep and do those orders, even if they sound utterly insane, like, oh, you know that nest of fire of people trying to kill you, go run towards them. Like, it's nuts, but like they understand. You have to understand like the need for it. I mean, God, can you imagine like that the D-Day situation, like charging into machine gun like nests and like defensed positions? Yeah, you caught them off guard and they weren't as well like staffed or like supported. But the thing is, they didn't even know going in if that actually was going to be the case, and they still lost so many people, especially that initial like, oh God, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. I'd be so bad if I was Battlefield. I'd be so bad. I would be one of those people who would die in the first minute. I just know it.
納得ね。
はあ。そういうことなら、せめて派遣する順番考えてくれりゃいいのにさ。ドゥーマの奴らを第二次派遣にすりゃよかったんだよ。
まったくだ。いいとばっちりだぜ。
で ?BG あんたさ、やけに現地情報に詳しいけど、それ誰に聞いたんだ？
How much you want to bet the mechanics on both sides are actually pretty amicable? Because they all speak the same language, essentially, you know, engineering. And I don't think they are likely to hold a grudge. And, you know, it's one of those things.
おいおいよせよ。ニュースソースは明かさないってのが、ジャーナリズムの鉄則だろ？
Uh-huh, sure.
ああ、なるほどね。たく、そういう動きだけは素早いよな。
本当に。この状況でも相変わらずなんて、素直に尊敬するわ。あなたのような人こそ、今の人類にとって最も有益かもしれないわね。
そうそう。俺は国家の壁を取り払って、親善友好に力を入れてるってわけよ。
Uh-huh, sure.
まあ、人口減少問題を憂いてとか言わないだけマシか。
I mean, someone's gotta do it, right?
もう、やめてよ、そういうの。
まあ、何にせよさ。私たちはまだいいけど、ユーヤのやつ大丈夫なのかな？ドゥーマ正体の話を聞いちゃうとさ。
I know, right? I'm worried too.
あら、気になるのね、彼のこと。好きなの？
何言ってんだ！私は別に、戦場で足を引っ張られちゃたまんないと思って。
Right, sure.
はいはい、わかってるって。お前はイブラヒムの旦那狙いだもんな。知ってる。慌てなさん。
何を
That's really low.
なんだよ！お前らだって心配なくせに！
まあな。けど、ありゃ大丈夫なんじゃねえかな。
He's got us. That's what I would say. But like, we're there. Like, we can snap him out of it.
そう？
変に緊張しねえように探りを入れたり声をかけるようにはしてたけど、周囲の状況もよく見えてるし、臆病すぎない程度に慎重にもなってる。まあ、戦場に出たら話はまた別だろうが。
And how bad would it be if this was the battle where the lasers showed up, you know? When they're not prepared for it.
あ、それで一言言おうと思ってたんだ。あんたの気の使い方はあからさますぎるんだよ、BG。もっとさりげなくやんなよ。
そういうお前さんだって見え見えだぜ。ありゃユーヤの方が気使ってる感じだな。
I mean, point.
うるさいな。そうかな。
You just stop. You're making it worse by trying to deny it.
その点、ヴィンセントのやつは自然つうか 全然いつもと変わらず振る舞ってるのはすげえよ。あいつだって実戦経験ないってのによくやってるぜ。
He's my boy. Vincent's best boy.
あれは鈍感なだけだよ。
No, no, he's very clever.
タリさ、こういう時は普段通りにされるのが一番楽なのよ。あなただってそうでしょ？
へえ。じゃあステラはユウヤと話すとき、いつも腕とか肩に触れるんだ。
Wait, is she talking about Vincent?
あら。
おほほじゃねえ。
Oh ho ho.
しかし、なんつうか、
Oh, it's Yuuya.
愛されてるね、ゆうやも。
だってさ、見てて微笑ましいからさ。あの不器用でまっすぐすぎるところとか。
そうね。天才っていうのは、どこか偏っているものなんでしょうけど。だからなおのこと。彼を見守る。
ああ、それについちゃ、みんなそう思ってることだろうよ。
Sorry, I clicked early there. After 4 days of simulator trials, I finally got the handle on the railgun and then some. For a massive piece of hardware, it's incredibly easy to handle. The fact that the weapon still is in prototype phase can be for a weapon, the fact that the weapon is still in its prototype phase can be wielded without difficulty speaks volumes about Japanese craftsmanship. A real shame it wasn't made in the USA. Lieutenant Takamura was formerly in charge of testing it, although she was made to quit halfway. It wouldn't be caught dead saying this out loud, but that alone is enough for me to put my trust in the railgun. Oh, yeah, I can see why. A perfectionist like her would discover and remedy all design flaws in the blink of an eye, no matter how trivial. Okay. Yeah, don't say that first line in isolation. It'll sound way different. Because that doesn't mean I've started to ease up on Japan, because I haven't. Not in the slightest. I'm just not petty enough to act like the hardware is a piece of junk when it clearly is not. Do I have complicated feelings about this? Sure I do. But I'm a pragmatist. I'm a pragmatist. I'll welcome anything that puts my mind at ease ahead of a field test. What are you doing here? What's this? Did someone drop something? Wait, I'm sure this is Inia's teddy bear. Yeah, what was his name? Start with an M. Misha. Yeah, wasn't it? No way the teddy bear is one of a kind, but I haven't heard anything about families living on base. Oh, crap. Oh, no. That's Inia's voice. So this is Misha. What the heck happened? Inia!
だよこいつ。チビのくせにすっげえ力だよ。
Holy crap!
こっちの姉ちゃんとは大違いだな。
ひんむいて、いつもの金網吊るしの刑にしちまう？
なら、8番ハンガーの前あたりがいいな。あそこの親父たちいつも飢えてるし。
Oh! No, that's not implying what I think it's implying. Oh my gosh! What the fetch is wrong with you people?
待てよ。親父どもに食わせるなら、俺たちが先に。
あんたも好きだね。
Inia! Stop this shit right now! You ball, what do you think you're doing? Inia, it's okay, no. What? They're just kids, man, what the fetch? Hey, are you okay? What'd they do to you?
私は大丈夫だ。
Oh, sure.
それより、イニアは。
Like hell, you're fine. A hard A like Cryska isn't usually brought to the verge of tears. What brings these little efforts did to her was something big.
とにかく、イニアを。
Oh, I think we have rights of an international incident here.
大丈夫。大丈夫だよ。
Yeah, I get the situation now. Scarlet Twins had a run-in with these bees. Their pieces of crap tried to lay their hands on Inia. Cryska stepped in, was beaten back from black and blue for her trouble. But what the F is going on? These guys are all Soviets. One thing to give foreigners like us a hard time. This is quite another to hurt someone on the same side this badly.
おいおい。てめえ、 どこの正義の味方だよ。
And I'm kind of, frankly, like, it's sad because this does happen, but it's almost shocking when people are like, not just like, okay, I get like, you get into a tussle, you fight, you like, our side, their side, that kind of stuff. But they were implying some pretty crazy stuff. And like, this chick was just gonna go along with it because she's like, oh, you guys are all the same, whatever. It's like, how desensitized do you have to be for that to just be something you can brush off about anybody, like another human being at all, let alone another girl? Like, you know what the horrible, like how horrible that whole situation is, and yet what, you're just cool with it?
女の前だからってカッコつけると後悔するぜ兄ちゃん。
Who the heck are you people?
はあ、バカかお前。俺たちはエースだ。このウィングマークが見えねえのかよ。
What? No way. No, I've heard about this. The Eurasian continent's short on people, so the age of conscription keeps getting lower. Even girls are drafted these days, but Jesus. These little bees are barely teenagers.
おいお前、仲間殴った分はきっちり型をつけっかんな。
Oh boy. Okay.
そういやてめえの顔、港で見たっけな。アラスカでのんきにやってる腰抜けの一人か。
悪いね兄ちゃん。ここは安全な後方基地とはちょっと勝手が違うんだよ。
叫んだって MP なんか来やしないよ。
連れに手出した方、きっちりつけさせてもらうぜ。
Wait. What? What are you talking about? Surround me from all sides? Expect TSF tactic if there is one. Can't afford to take it easy, not when I'm seriously outnumbered. These buttholes are seething with rage. Thinking about them as kids would be misleading. These are pilots with actual combat experience, and no pilot worth his salt would rush in without a plan. Attacking a visitor would open breach of military regulation, but witnesses and all, doesn't look like they'll give a darn. Dip crafts must know a loophole or two that'll help them get away scot-free. I've dealt with bullies doing this kind of crap every day when I was a kid. I'm more familiar with their methods. It would be suicide to face them head on, but I don't see how I could run away with Cryska and Inia in shock. Best I can do is make an example out of one of them and hope the rest scatter.
貴様ら、何をやっている？
Huh?
この声。
Thank freaking goodness.
Tasha!
Tasha? Ooh, who are you?
ってことは、
貴様らにお客さんと遊んでいる暇などないはずだが。
Oh, she just breathes with absolute just awesomeness. Lieutenant Colonel.
整列！
Right in the nick of time, I hope.
歓迎パーティーはお開きだ。貴様らは直ちに持ち場へ戻り、機体の整備、補給状況の確認だ。急げ！
Okay. But did we dodge one bullet and fall into the path of another? Lieutenant. Well, commanding presence. This woman is not your run-of-the-mill officer. The way she carries herself belies her ample track record on the front lines. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel. If it wasn't for you, I...
貴様ら、部をわきまえて行動しろ。
What?
いいな。
What? Know your place? What the bitch is that supposed to mean? Is she implying what happened was our fault? Get out of here with that crap. Throw a bunch of kids into the front line willy-nilly, end up with a pack of feral animals. Anybody would have seen that coming. You want to tell us you know our place? Train your little craps to behave in public first, and then maybe you'll have the moral authority to talk. Wait here just 1 second.
Yuuya.
Those kids weren't playing around. If that lieutenant's colonel hadn't shown up, we could have easily been seriously injured. We didn't even get an apology. She's acting like this whole kerfuffle was our fault.
やめておけブリッジズ。問題が大きくなるだけだ。
As long as it makes matters worse for them too, it's a risk I'm willing to take. Much easier to deal with a formal protest than a fetching steel pipe to the head.
ねえ、ターシャ。あんたからも、中佐にうまく謝っておいてよ。
余計なことをするなと言われていただろう。
だって。
大丈夫だ。中佐はこんなことで本気で怒ったりはしない。お客さんの手前、ああいう言い方をしただけよ。
That was considered trivial.
どんなにクズでも客は客だ。問題が起きると非難されるのはこっちだから。
Alright. I know, we knew, and like it makes sense, the hostility. But these are levels of hostility that are far beyond what makes sense.
私からも中佐には言っておくけど、後でちゃんと自分の口で謝るのよ。ほら、もう言って。中佐の命令に逆らうわけにはいかないでしょ。
あ
あ。Now that's something. Seems these little crafts and that Lieutenant Colonel share more than a simple hierarchical relationship. Maybe she's a mother figure of sorts? Sure, I wouldn't be surprised. If I'm right, nothing I say with the Lieutenant Colonel will make a difference. In fact, we should consider ourselves lucky we got off this lightly. Life on the front lines is harsh and unforgiving, an environment where danger lurks around every corner and death is an order of the day. Such places, tourists like us need to pay our dues before we're owed any respect from what their officer stands. Far from protesting, we should be saying, "Thank you, ma'am. May I have some more?"
Yuuya!
I'm back. Sorry for leaving you two by yourselves. How are your injuries?
私は大丈夫だけど。
心配ない。
You were in shock. Did they do anything, well, you know.
何か？何のことだ？
Never mind. No, just forget it. That aside, why didn't you fight back?
わからない。
You don't know.
彼らの敵意からイーニアを守らねばと思った瞬間に力が。
So she's still having these weird pass-out moments. Well, I get why you froze up, but you shouldn't have let them have their way with you. Inia was in real danger, you know?
イーニア、ごめんなさい。
私は大丈夫だよ。
I've been wondering, how'd this whole thing get started? A gang beatdown goes way beyond a quarrel between fellow soldiers.
お前らがアラスカから来た腰抜けどもは。
Okay. That's crazy though. That like even amongst their own, like if they're not on the front lines, they're seen as cowards. Like, do you think they wouldn't want to be there? Like, they clearly are ordered to be in Alaska.
クリスカ。
大丈夫よ、イニア。
おい姉ちゃん、無視してんじゃねえよ。それとも何か？俺たちみたいな野蛮な連中と口聞いちゃいけねえってママに言われてんのか？あ？
私はソビエト陸軍中央戦略開発軍団331特殊実験開発中隊のテストパイロットクリスカ・ビアチ。
中央のエリートさんですか？で、それがどうした？だからなんだって？
私たちは祖国のために戦う同胞。なのにお前たちはどうして敵意を向けるんだ？
That's what I was saying.
同胞？調子に乗ってんじゃねえぞ、当のメス犬が！
Oh, interesting. I didn't expect that.
自分たちだけさっさと逃げやがったくせに何が同胞だクソが！散々搾取しやがって！
Oh.
ぶっ殺すぞ貴様！
Oh, wait a minute. Are they refugees? And if they are, then real Russians were mostly mobilized to Alaska, but to keep the front line stocked and supplied with not just pilots, but infrastructure, they forced anyone who was, like, marginalized in Russian society to the front, which is exactly what we saw in, like, the day after the United States was doing the exact same thing. It's the same problem, where, like, maybe they're descendants of, like, survivors of, like, Kazakhstan, maybe, like, Mongolia, Indochina, like all that landmass, like, a lot of the people who didn't get immediately wiped out likely fled, you know, in any direction they could, and some of them were going to go to Russia. Maybe that's what happened here.
いざとなったら捨て駒じゃねえか！
待ってくれ。お前たちだってソ連軍の。
違う！お前はロシア軍だ！
何を言っているんだ？
ソ連なんて元からねえんだよ！てめえらロシアが押し付けたんだ！
Okay, yeah. Oh boy, right, because this is a non-fallen Soviet Union as well. Very, very oppressive in their early days, especially post-World War II. There's a lot of land grabbing, a lot of hostility, and a lot of forced conscription and forced assimilation. Interesting. Oh gosh, someone mentioned before how like the current times with the coinciding with me playing this game, definitely gonna put a little spin on perspective and fetch me if they weren't right. Holy cow. It's like they didn't really change in a lot of ways, huh? Those attitudes are still very prevalent. Except this is a state that didn't collapse, instead was forced to collapse via war, which means that those attitudes have become more instilled than ever.
わからない。
とぼけてんじゃねえぞ。お前の部隊はロシア人しか入れねえんだよ。
ロシア人。
アラスカに逃げたのはほとんどロシア人だろ。前線で戦ってるのはグルジアやカザフで育ったそれ以外の人間だ。
I even call it Kazakhstan was one of them, and Georgians as well. The Soviets who escaped to Alaska are basically all Russians.
確かに我が国にはロシアをはじめ多くの共和国があった。だがソビエト連邦はあくまでも一つの国家。
Yeah.
そしてソビエト軍はそれを守るためにあるはずだ。
But that's all in theory. Unfortunately, when a state has higher, when there's one kind of more like culturally dominant group amongst a collective, they're likely to spare their own more than others. And so that balance that should be there, where all people should be equally, like who are part of this Russian society, should all equally be having to face the same trials, doesn't play out true. It's the same thing you have with it's cultural stigmatism, racial stigmatism. These are things that have happened through human history for its entire existence. It's stuff we still fight today, stuff we still have to deal with. And so, yeah, it should be, but it's not. Sounds like me like these brats are holding a serious grudge against the Russians. We're talking about the kind of hatred that takes decades to seep in. I know very little about the Soviet history from the period before the government fled from Eurasia, but one thing I know is that the multi-ethnic conflicts are par for the course whenever different ethnic groups live together, even in a free world. Still, the old hatreds must run incredibly deep if they can't work together as a single force against man-eating aliens. Makes you wonder, what are these little craps fighting for?
わからない。対立などと、そんな話は聞いたことがない。だから、敵意を向けられる理由など、見当もつかない。
That's another downside to the psychic plan, and it's like they were so isolated, being like essentially grown up in a lab in secret. The geopolitics makes no sense to them.
我々後方の実験正体が快く思われていないことは知っている。だから、同じ階級でも先に名乗ることで、例を示したつもりだった。なのに、凄まじい敵意を向けられた。
Interesting. I wonder if that might be part of it too. So we've seen her get like kind of like knocked unconscious randomly. And in those times, we know that people who wished her harm or desired to like take control of her, you could say, like to dictate their will over hers, were in the area is when she started having all these issues. On the island, there was that like extra German force that was trying to capture one of these two for their own means. And when they grew in proximity is when she likely was first and also secondly like inhibited. Now she meets these who are hostile but they're fellow Russian soldiers, but that's when she collapses as well, when their hostile intent was turned and focused on her. I wonder if she's just extra sensitive to hostile intent. If anything, that could be like a litmus test they were going for in the program. They wanted to have a sense to be able to understand like, okay, if the beta aren't going to talk with words, what if they can talk through intent? So they made her sensitive to intent and maybe she has different types of reactions based on the intent of somebody who's like in her presence. And specifically, she has a very like physical draining response to abject, like just direct desire to destroy, which would be good to rule out with beta because like you'd want to know, like, are they here? Because that's kind of the ultimate question of like, are they intending to be hostile or is there some other motivation? Which is like what we ultimately learned in Alternative. But like, that was a big question because we just didn't know, like, were the beta here like specifically to destroy humanity, or were we just kind of bugs on the windshield to them? And she possibly, if she got close enough to a beta intelligent hive node, could potentially suss that out through a very like a biological on-off switch. Essentially, it's crude, but you know, when you're working with espers that you have to genetically modify in a lab, you're gonna take whatever wins you can get. Those W's are gonna mean the world to you.
それはなぜなのか、どうしたらいいのかと考えているうちに、目の前が真っ暗になり、全身から力が抜けてしまったのだ。
When Cryska fainted in Guadalupe after struggling and failing to endure her fear of the ocean, she was under a similar amount of stress. Oh, it also just could be a stress response or a fear response. When they didn't respond in a way that she could understand, she got afraid, and maybe fear cripples her. The pattern's clear. Her mental stability breaks down when she's faced with intense pressure. Cryska's built her identity around a life dedicated to fighting for the motherland. She took that for granted, even that every single Soviet soldier prized the collective above the individual. But her world was turned upside down in a matter of seconds with the mental strain that implies.
情けないことに、立ち直ることもできず、そうしている間に、イーニアに危害が加えられそうになり。
Oh yeah, yes, you're not even like wrong there. It's absolutely could have been as worse as you were thinking. Good thing I made it in time. Nothing shameful about what happened to you. This isn't the kind of incident you can write up as a misguided jealousy or simple misunderstanding. I can't even wrap my head around what made those kids lash out so hard against their own comrades. Anyway, since that bunch belonged with the Lieutenant Colonel, you should lodge a formal complaint through the Lieutenant Sandak.
そんなこと。
Look, I don't know if you're going to listen to me or not, but that must have been traumatizing. It's written all over your faces. Right now, you're in no condition to tackle field testing. Just because those little turds risk their lives on the front line doesn't mean they should be allowed to get away with murder. They need to realize they're compromising their own futures. They're the ones who should know their place.
クリスカ。
わかった。サンダーク中尉には、どのみち報告しなければならない。その時に話をしてみる。
She's probably told that, like, under all circumstances, if she ever gets overwhelmed and blacks out, she has to report in. Sounds like a plan. Want me to walk you guys back?
その必要はない。
ユーヤも危なかったって言っておくね。
It's okay. Please don't. It's only gonna complicate things. Let's just pretend I wasn't here, okay?
わかった。ユーヤがそう言うなら黙ってる。誰にも言わない。
Be careful on your way back, you hear? Maybe it's over now, but those rat turds may be lying in wait.
それなら大丈夫。もうちゃんとわかるから。
Oh, so now that they can mentally prepare themselves to see them as potential enemies, maybe they can overcome that barrier. You understand? Well, if you say so, just promise me you'll be careful.
行こう、クリスカ。
What about Misha, though? Darn. Life on the front lines is harsh and unforgiving, all right. Fetch me. I thought we were going to see the combat today. No, we saw something far terrifying. Oh, but this looks like it's going to be the day. Okay, so we'll get to that next week. Whew! Why are the humans more terrifying in this storyline, huh? I mean, that's not all that surprising, honestly, but still, it kind of punches you in the gut when it's like, oh, you know what? We're about to fight like aliens that are going to try and rip us apart for nothing more than resources. But you know what? These surface pilots in the Russian military, they're scarier. They're genuinely scarier because of what they were casually ready to do and how they perceive like the people around them. Fetch me. Like, I get it. I get why, but that's still just horrifying. But it's really, 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 really well written to kind of talk about how, like, they're acting like monsters, but, like, at the same time, like, you can get it, right? Like, does it justify it? Absolutely not. Just because you go through terrible things and get mistreated doesn't mean that it's okay to go back and willingly impose pain and suffering on others just because you can. Like, that doesn't make it okay. But it certainly doesn't make you just pure monsters. You can almost sympathize with those kids. But the fact that they're so like corrupt, I would say, like not corrupted and like they're like more like twisted, which you could totally get because I mean the things they see and they do, And the things their families probably went through. Fetch me. Alright, well, we'll have to deal with all that next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As dark as it got, still was worth a think. I'm grateful for all your time and look forward to reading your comments. Grateful especially to the patrons. Your support means the world to me. I hope I can keep being worthy of that support. And yeah, we'll buckle up for next week. But until next video, watching me or seeing me next, I'll see you there.